to develop our own consciousness, because the only thing we got to use is memorization. So when you have dealing with memorization, you don't know how to deal with the information that's coming in. You follow what I'm making? Because all you're doing is memorizing information that is outside of you. So they're not teaching you. So when information starts coming through, when you get to a certain age, which you will, information starts coming in. You're like, this is not right. They didn't teach me in school. They didn't teach me this, that, and the other. Where's all this information coming from? You have not been trained to deal with it. Because they've been trying to decide whether you're going to be a good robot or a good slave. They had no contextual framework for you being a free being, with free thoughts, with free consciousness. They had no curriculum for you to manage freedom, but only for you to be able to tolerate slavery. That's what you've been set up for by their institutions and educations. So they haven't been taught how to deal with information coming in. They have not built a strong internal relationship. So we have no idea when we get to that level of enlightenment. Everybody go through the age of enlightenment. You know how you have the astrology systems? Well, we have astrology systems in the years of our lives. Every stage of a development, we should go to a different stage of consciousness. Now, the schools are not preparing us for these different stages of consciousness. So what happens is an individual gets to a point where realize late. So the people who realize late that they actually have a self, it's sometimes too late. Sometimes they find themselves in a mental institution. Sometimes they find themselves in a correctional institution. Sometimes they find themselves at a point of a nervous breakdown. Because their body has not been prepared to channel the information. And the consciousness is coming through their being. They haven't been taught to do that. Now, many of them are able to repair and rejuvenate and learn and get with the right yogis and get with the right information and get with the right spiritual masters to develop, to deal with it. Now, many of them are able to repair and rejuvenate and learn and get with the right yogis and get with the right information and get with the right spiritual masters to develop, to deal with it. Some are. Some just fall by the wayside. Do you see the point I'm making? But the system don't want to really deal with that. It doesn't want to deal with that reality because it wants to look at its institutions as perfect centers of learning. So it don't want those flaws to be exposed. So now the individual that discovers they have a self, some are too late. They've been ran out here like robots and killed people. They thought they was the people on the television. They thought they was the people in the movies.
So I don't think the people that the TV started directly to them.
Right. They had no ideal consciousness of creation. They had no self-awareness. You ask people, well, what is self-awareness? It's the ability to create and to manifest thoughts and consciousness based upon willpower. So they never had no self-awareness. So they think, hey, I'm gonna borrow my personality from the soap operas. I'm gonna borrow my personality from the gangster movies and the videos. They never aware that they had a self. There was no internal. When you come and you talk about knowledge of self, they look at you and say, well, I am myself. What you talking about, knowledge of self? Self? Don't you see you looking at me? No, we're not looking at you, brother. We're looking at how you have taken on the image of Lucifer. We're looking at how you have took on the image of your environment. Only people who manifest creativity have a self. Because if you're what everybody else have always been, you are nobody. You're nobody in important. You're nobody in general, right? You're nobody specific. You're just everybody else, right? You're everybody else who are. So you're a borrowed identity. So the only manifestation of self-knowledge is something that can differentiate you from the self of everybody else that we see on the TV. Everybody else we see on the movies. If you're everybody else that exists, or your only consciousness of being in harmony is taking on the image or the identity or the imitation of someone who already exists, you have no knowledge of yourself. That's deep. And the knowledge pushes them away. That pushes them away from knowledge of self because now they're more afraid. Because they don't even know they don't even want to know what's in the closet. Self. They really blew up now. Like, wait a minute now. Keep that closed. I'm sure I want to be Jay-Z now and 50 Cent. Keep the closet closed. I don't want to know. But they don't have the power not to know. Just like you don't have the power to make your heart beat. All you can do is sometimes practice proper breathing exercises to slow your heart down and to relax your system. But the power is not in you to make your heart beat. So it's not a power in you to resist who you are. Listen, I'm going deep now. The power does not lie within ourselves to resist who we really are. We don't have the power to do that. All we can do is channel it into being. All we can do is work with it and harmoniously. We can learn to be conduits to bring the reality of ourselves, which is in alignment with our ancestors, which is in alignment with the righteousness of our people, of those who become before us. All we can do is align ourselves with that. We can't turn it off. So you have people out here fighting against themselves, fighting against the energies of their own being. There you go. Now you have schizophrenia. So as opposed to fighting your divinity, which is a black deity, which is the consciousness of yourself, which is against society, society's image, colonialism, corruption. It's against what your environment is forcing you to be. Thus, two personalities manifest now. Now you have two different people in there. You got Shaka Zulu and Sarah. Bum, 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 bum. Now you have schizophrenia. You swing from revolutionary conscious thoughts to being in tune with the ancestors, and you go right back to being Bobby. You see the point I'm making? Now that's your bipolarism. Because we have not been taught to channel the energies of our beings. We've been taught that we are nobody, not knowing that we are the infinite eternal universe in energetic manifestation. Do you see the point I'm making? You telling us that we're nobody, but everybody trying to get through into us. All the spirits and consciousness of divine people who have lived and walked the planet is trying to get back here to do some work. And we're blocking them out. We're blocking out their energy so we can accept this image of the European. So this is the mental illness that is happening with people. When you see them, they haven't been learned to channel the energy within their own being. So people go and they say, well, you know what? They say, well, and then something comes out with some bit of truth in it, but mainly composed of falsehood. The secret. Truth to that. They say, well, you know, you can create your own thoughts. You can.
All I wanted to do was share the secret with the world. I began searching for people alive today who know the secret. One by one, they began to emerge.
You know, this secret gives you everything you want. Happiness, health, and wealth.
You can have, do, or be anything you want.
We can have whatever it is that we choose. I don't care how big it is.
What kind of a house do you want to live in?
Do you want to be a millionaire?
What kind of a business do you want to have?
Do you want more success?
What do you really want?
I've seen many miracles take place in people's lives. Financial miracles, miracles of physical healing, mental healing, healing in relationships.
All of this happened because of knowing how to apply the secret.
With some bit of truth in it, but mainly composed of falsehood. The secret. They say, well, it's some truth to that. They say, well, you know, you can create your own thoughts, you can manifest your own reality. But only if it is in alignment with the energy that is composed of you called your soul. You cannot create outside of your soul. Listen, they won't tell you this. You can't create outside of your soul. They say, well, whatever you think, you can manifest. Well, create yourself to be a white person. Most people are trying to do that. That's what they've been thinking, right? They've been thinking, how can I get more like the European? But none of those thoughts have manifested. The only thing that have manifested as due to that thought was destruction, trying to be more like the European. So that means you cannot create whatever you want through your thought. You can only create that which is in alignment with the reality of your own being. Heavy. So you cannot sit and think and meditate for hours and become a European. It'll never happen. That's not in alignment with your soul. The composite of energetic vibrations that make up the essence of who you are. You see the point I'm making? You cannot create outside of that. You cannot manifest your existence outside of that. So now people say, well, they thinking that, hey, they lack discipline or something wrong with them because they will not go along with the Europeans' institutionalism. Because they will not go along with the institution of white supremacy. They think something's wrong with them. No, it's not. You cannot create outside of your soul. Some people have a soul that cannot be enslaved inside of white supremacy. Some people's soul cannot be colonialized. Even though their mind, their intellect, based upon how they've been educated, say, man, I really need to be a slave. But the soul is not going along with those thoughts. So now you got schizophrenia again. The soul is telling you that you're Sojourner Truth and Harriet Tubman and Mary McLeod Bethune, but your mind is telling you that you're Sarah. You're Angela. And Becky. point I'm making? So now we have a problem. So now we start to take the Ritalin and the Prozac and different medications so that we can suppress the reality of who we are. Because we have not been taught to channel the energy of truth. We have not been taught to focus that energy. So it's only to a certain point can people realize they have a self. They went through their whole childhood and thought they was just their body. They always thought. They never thought about thinking. It never occurred to them that they were thinking beings that were voluntarily creating. They just was going whatever their mind say. I want sugar. I want pork. Right? Whatever their mind said, that's what they went with. Oh, I missed. I missed you, honey. Will I get you again? I got you.
What happens in slaughterhouses is a variation on the theme of the exploitation of the weak by the strong. More than 10,000 times a minute, in excess of 6 billion times a year, just in the United States, life is literally drained from so-called food animals. Having the greater power, humans decide when these animals will die, where they will die, and how they will die. The interests of these animals themselves play no role whatsoever in the determination of their fate. Killing an animal is in itself a troubling act. It has been said that if we had to kill our own meat, we would all be vegetarians. Certainly very few people ever visit a slaughterhouse, and films of slaughterhouse operations are not popular on television. People might hope that the meat that they buy came from an animal who died without pain, but they don't really want to know about it. Yet those who, by their purchases, require animals to be killed do not deserve to be shielded from this or any other aspect of the production of the meat they buy. So where does our food come from? For those of us living on a meat diet, the process these animals undergo is as follows. For beef, the animals are all branded. In this instance, on the face. Dehorning usually follows, never with anesthetic, but rather a large pair of pliers. In transportation, animals are packed so tightly into trucks they are practically on top of one another. Heat, freezing temperatures, fatigue, trauma, and health conditions will kill some of these animals en route to the slaughterhouses. Milking cows are kept chained to their stalls all day long, receiving no exercise. Pesticides and antibiotics are also used to increase their milk productivity. Eventually, milking cows, like this one, collapse from exhaustion. Normally, cows can live as long as 20 years, but milking cows generally die within 4, at which point their meat is used for fast food restaurants. At this slaughterhouse, the branded